Hi everyone, welcome. I'm Lindsay, your host, and I'm here with Julie and David from BeeNZ, the founders of BeeNZ, and they have some beautiful Manuka honeys that they produce, and I am a huge fan, and this comes from the beautiful country of New Zealand. It's really, really special, and we talk all the things from the health of the hive to how much fun we had personally speaking just on our whole trip and journey here, not only from honey from the hive to the extraction to the processing and then to the bottling to the consumer, hive to home, as Julie had mentioned. So we talk all things that we debunk certain myths and just clarify lots of questions from local versus Manuka honey, as well as talk about glyphosate, as well as continuing on the journey with why Manuka honey is so special, meaning like its health properties and therapeutic properties. So you're going to learn so much from this, from just bees in general, as well as what Manuka means to your health and how you can fold it into your kitchen and your cooking experience and just, your enjoyment in life. So excited for you guys to meet David and Julie. Here we go. Check it out. Julie and David, my goodness, how much fun did we have this trip?
It's been fabulous. It's gone so quickly, hasn't
I
it?
know.
We've done so much stuff. It's been very, very awesome.
So much stuff. I didn't realize we could fit in so many cultural experiences and just also fold in the process of Manuka honey and just honey in general too, and showing me that process. So I've learned so much from these two, and I'm gonna try as best I can to condense it and make it digestible for you guys to, for sure, take away some bits and bobs, as we say here. So
Heaps of stuff.
Yeah, so it's gonna be super fun. But we did everything from, like I said, just understanding the process of, bee maintenance, as well as just from the whole process to the hives, to the extractions, to the filtering, to the bottling process. So not only has it been such a wonderful honey and bee and very sweet experience there at BeeNZ, but also just a piece of the Kiwi life, and from your guys' lens and perspective. We went hunting, we went fishing, we caught a bunch of red snapper, and the hunting experience was great, and to share it with the community here was beautiful. We went to a dairy farm, and that was just such a wonderful experience to just also visually see this country too, the rolling hills and the green hills, and it was so fabulous, and even more in depth too, just from a Kiwi family's perspective too. So I really appreciate just the welcoming. It was, New Zealand should be really proud of you guys, seriously, from business owners to everything under the sun. So what a great experience.
Great. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah.
We wanted that. We wanted you to immerse yourself in our day-to-day life, what we do, what we eat, how we harvest lots of our food. So you jumped in and you enjoyed all of it. It was fabulous.
Yeah, it was really cool. So thank you for such a fabulous experience, and I want to just hold you closer and then, of course, share with you guys the benefits of Manuka honey and also just the wonderful taste of it too, that just is so unique to New Zealand. And I love BeeNZ's brand of Manuka honey. I'd been talking to you guys for, actually, it might have been a year
Probably
before.
a year, yeah.
Before we really started collaborating and just, tasting and also sharing it with you guys. It took about a year for conversations and understanding a little bit more about the honey process. And so with that said, I wanted to share just the benefits of Manuka honey and how it's different from local honey. But first, let's talk about what types of honey that you guys produce here in
Sure. So we're fortunate in New Zealand to have some beautiful honeys. Manuka and Kanuka are our main focus for export because they have those added special bioactives. But we also produce rewa, clover, wildflower, lots of other New Zealand native floral honeys, which are beautiful tasting, but they don't have the bioactives that the Manuka and Kanuka have.
Right, and so the bioactives are those compounds that really elevate it and really separate it, honestly, from a local honey that maybe is maybe your I don't know, in America or something, like even from Texas standpoint. It's different than that local honey, though. This isn't to replace it, but only to add another sweet element to your diet, to just enjoyment and experiences within your cooking. And so I know that I live a very simple life too, with just, you guys have seen me eat too, organs, meats, fruit and honey. And I'm very particular about what I introduce into my diet, just because from a, nutritional standpoint, what that means for my health. And so it's really special that something is something that I regularly consume. And so how it's different from local honey is the fact that, like Julie had mentioned, the bioactives involved in it, which are the compounds that can really enhance your digestive health, your oral care, even topically too, speaking with, Kuka, it can act as an anti-inflammatory. And so there's different potency levels from a UMF standpoint, and which we're going to go over in just a second. And because if you're new to Manuka, you may even think like, well, what is Manuka? And then you can go to their website and you'll see I have a link down below too, so you can kind of check it out and look through it as we're chatting with you guys. But you'll be like, well, what's the UMF grading, right? There's 5, there's 10, there's 15, there's 20, and there's actually even above, which is a secret I didn't even know until I got here. Holy moly. But anyways, so there's different grades, and so that is the potency of it. And so I'm going to tell you about a story that I had with a intestinal bacteria, but let's first go through the grades. First of all, to be certified, like genuine, authentic Manuka honey needs to have a certification label. So it should have the UMF grade label, and then therefore that from your guys' test results, it can determine the 5, 10, 15, 20, which we're going to talk about. So tell us a little bit about the UMF.
So you're right. So the UMF, so all honey is tested for its methylglyoxal, which is a special marker in Manuka honey.
Which you guys might know as MGO.
That's right. So most honey labels will have, Manuka honey labels will have an MGO grading. Taking it to the UMF grading just takes it that next step up. So further tests are done to test for its freshness, its authenticity, and its potency. So that gives our 5, 10, 15, 20 plus grading. To have a UMF grading, it's also got to be packed in New Zealand.
Right.
So it's compliant. It's that way your consumer can feel safe that it's packed in New Zealand under New Zealand Manuka rules and requirements. So that's number one. It's number one to check.
And what that means is too, there's so much counterfeit honey out there. Honestly, it's one of the top 3 most counterfeited items, and along with olive oil. And so it really drove home yesterday when we were talking about it that it's literally has to be bottled in these amazing little bottles. How cute are they? It has to be bottled in these bottles before export. So that means that when they go in the honey drums and it's sent off to like the States or something like that, a company can receive it, but they also don't get that UMF certification. So it absolutely has to be in these bottles through and through.
Absolutely, yep. And then the gradings, the potency, 5, 10, 15, 20, higher the number, the higher the level of antibacterial properties in that honey. Yeah.
And to achieve that, it's usually the density of where the hives are placed, the density of Manuka. Yeah.
I was going to ask that, and I was actually trying to, maybe I had forgot that question the other day, but so meaning the density, so like the location-wise of where you guys plop your hives, and then if there's, a plethora of Manuka trees, then that is likely to achieve that higher UMF grading.
That's it.
Yeah, and weather and the environment play a big part, don't they, on the potency of that honey batch.
Yeah.
That harvest. Yeah.
Does it, have you guys experienced any challenges with, I know that one of your sons, I think it was Tanner or, another one of them, they're also, they showed me around when they're beekeepers and super amazing humans that you guys have produced. He was saying that every year is different and all the hives are different, which, understandably we're working with nature, right? So from a production standpoint then too, do you just find it kind of like ups and downs and?
Very, very, like it's very, very seasonal. So it got to be good weather for that sort of 3 to 4 weeks.
Yeah.
And as you can see today, it's a bit cloudy. But yeah, that's the key part to getting the actual volume of honey.
And the Manuka flower is only open for such a short time per
Right.
year, so 3 weeks maximum.
Maybe 3.5.
Three and a half weeks. So that's
Yeah.
the only window we have all year
Yeah.
for those flowers to be open, the bees to collect the nectar.
Right.
So if bad weather like rain or wind weather kicks in on the same time as those flowers opening, then the
Yeah.
bees can't fly, so they can't collect. So,
Yeah, wow.
so you know that sort of determines a little bit, or one of the reasons, apart from its bioactive and its superhuman powers.
Oh my gosh.
Why?
It made
look,
me
we've got the
Wolverine
cat
after
joining
my
us.
issue.
Sorry, the cat's come to join us.
Oh, hello.
One of the reasons that price point's a little higher too is because we just don't have the supply of all the other honeys.
Right.
That it's pretty special.
Yeah, and that's what makes it so special. I mean, I know all about the superpowers that it gives you. So just continuing on a little bit with the UMF. So what does the 5 mean in relation to the 20? And when somebody is looking at, okay, what do I get from 5 to 20? My question is to ask you is, what are you looking for, right? Is some of your challenge dealing with digestive issues, or maybe gastritis or acid reflux? I would say definitely go for the higher UMF grade, such as a 20. I know it helped me. And then kind of going down the line to a 15, maybe you want some more immune support, and maybe it's during that
or a
season.
unsettled throat or cough, dry cough. It can definitely help with that.
Right, and then the 5 UMF is nice to kind of fold into just your culinary creations, as well as have these bioactive compounds that aren't necessarily found in local honey, but to just sort of like fold it in here and just sort of a maintenance to optimizing your journey of just health and well-being.
Part of your everyday, well-being routine, health routine. Perfect.
Yeah.
The
And
5 Plus is perfect for that.
Right, and not to mention it's super delicious. I guess how would you say it tastes, and maybe going up each grade too? How can you explain maybe the taste of it? Did we talk about this the other day?
We did.
A little bit.
I just love it because as it goes up in those numbers, it just gets a little bit more body in it as a taste. It just feels a little bit stronger and stronger and stronger. And there is a difference in the taste between a 5 and a 20, of course. It's yummy all the way through for me. It's my palate.
Right.
So Manuka has quite a mineral, earthy taste compared to your sweet floral varieties. So yeah, it is great. And the higher you go, the more minerally dense that taste comes through.
Right.
And also the texture, doesn't it? Like a higher grade UMF, like a 20 and beyond, is quite thixotropic. So it can almost have a more, I want to say jelly-like or thicker consistency.
Yeah, I really adore the taste of Manuka, but yeah, that definitely gets earthier the higher that you climb up on the UMF rating. And it's similar. I always liken it to kind of olive oil in the sense of the polyphenols too. It just has more. Not that Manuka has a bitter taste, but olive oil has more of a bitter taste when you have that early harvest in October. It's like really potent, and a lot of actually people have never really tasted real olive oil because they've never tasted that bitterness before. And so similarly to how honey is, it's and really genuine Manuka honey too as well. So I love that. And then there's also the Kuka honey that you guys have too. So we went through the 5, 10, and 15, and 20 even. And then there's the Kuka honey, which is technically a cousin of Manuka, right?
It is. David, you want to explain about the tree?
Yeah, one tree's small, which is Manuka. It's more bushy and shorter. Kanuka is actually quite a large tree.
And this is the Manuka flowering.
Very similar looking at flowering time, but definitely a larger tree. Kanuka is probably more prevalent as a tree in nature, in the big valleys and that, and it's equally as hard to get it as far as the bees are concerned and climatic wise, but it just has a completely different active property to Manuka. Beautiful taste, really, really lovely taste,
It's almost actually it's a little sweeter. Doesn't have that deep mineral taste that the Manuka does.
We've done a lot of work with this, and this is actually anti-inflammatory, and this is antibacterial.
Right. Yeah.
So that's the difference.
Yeah, and I think that for Manuka honey too, I absolutely love having it. I have the whole lineup, right, from 5 to 20, and you know, definitely the 5 is more everyday use, like you mentioned too, and then you know, the higher up in grade, the more that it's, you know, for those special experiences, and so they do tend to last long, which is, you know, shelf stable for quite some time. But I also have the Kuka too for not only consumption and fun recipes, but also for my face and for face mask and for you know, my hair. I don't use shampoo or conditioner because that will worsen hair or in scalp issues and things like that. Just like going for natural ingredients such as Kuka has I feel like repaired my hair, made it shinier, and I just love this. It's great. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. So that's what you can use Kuka for as well. So let me just share with you, because I did share with you guys earlier the how I leveraged Manuka as for my healing and for my recovery, and you can also use it for just, you know, therapeutic purposes too as well. But I had I ate some raw heart, which I made you guys eat the other day, but that's because we did it from a fresh kill from
We knew where it was coming from, and we had Manuka honey on hand.
Exactly. Yeah, just in case, right? But that wouldn't have been the case because it's fresh. It's the least processed that you can get to having these organs fresh. And so we killed a deer yesterday or the day before now, and we just had fresh organs right from that start and had a little bit of the honey. Sorry, going back to my story, is I ate some raw heart from a company or from a producer that I don't normally get it from. Now, I've been animal-based for 4 years, and I've been eating raw organs because it does preserve the most nutrients in that form, as opposed to cooking it starts to denaturing it, as you know, with honey too as well, which we're going to get into that as far as some of the enemies of honey when it comes to just degrading the quality of it. But I didn't, so I never get sick from all of the companies that I have sourced from, because I do come out here and I, you know, visit you guys and I chat with you guys and I understand a little bit more of your process. And I think that part of the reasons why our food industry is a little bit not healthy isn't necessarily because of the food itself, but it's because of the entire process. And which is why I absolutely love Julie and David and what they're doing over here at BeeNZ, is because they are meticulous about the process. They're super clean, and they just care about each step of the way. And you guys are very open and adaptable to adjusting course depending on what's happening around you. So being aware of those surroundings and not just, you know, the end product. It's actually, the end product is just a bonus, right? It's like really the hard work is in the process. So anyways, I ended up eating raw heart, and it's just a mistake that I knew I shouldn't have done, and I never do, but I did it. That night I had major issues, intestinally speaking, and I was like, wow, okay, this might be a food poisoning of some sort, whatever. So so I was in intense pain. Every 15 minutes it was just like, it was brutal. And then the next day I tried as much as I could to, you know, nourish myself the way I knew how and hydrate, and I couldn't hold anything in, not even water, nothing. Okay. I know, you're just like sitting over here like, I don't even think I told them the full detailed story, but I'm telling you guys here. So moving on to the second day, you know, still in that much pain, and then I tried, you know, to nourish myself in different ways and not just, you know, water. It was like, okay, and it wasn't like I was trying milk, and then, okay, maybe it wasn't that, maybe it was yogurt. Okay, it was yogurt. Then I had Manuka honey on hand. And then I started mixing that, and then I started to see that it was retaining, you know, some of that hydration, and just it felt good going down, even though I still had those spells of 15-minute intervals of excruciating pain. It started to feel really good, and I started to, you know, when you kind of remove a lot of the noise from your diet, and especially if you're sick, you just like have nothing, that I really was like intuitively just trying to listen to my body and what it needed. And so that was sort of like a gentle nudge to say, this is good. keep going, right? And so that became a staple in feeling better during that time. Along with other, like a mixture of things too. And so then on the third day, I tried to get a little bit more, like add a little bit more, such as like actually tried like a few grains of rice, because sometimes when you have a tummy ache, rice feels better. So I tried a little bit of that. That was a huge mistake. And then I started to realize, okay, we're dealing with intestinal inflammation, and it's not really like stomach upset. So like, yes, having a grain was just not a good idea. Anyways, ended up having to go to an urgent care room. They sent me to the hospital. I got an IV drip, which was great because it was like good hydration. But the help of this was really helpful in retaining some of that earlier on. And it's not to say that this, saved me or anything like that, but I think that after I had to go through a round of antibiotics because my body wasn't expelling it in 3 days. But this was something that I did absolutely every day. And I did the 20 UMF because I needed those bioactives. I needed a really like a healing aspect into my diet. And so this was, and again, like I said, the response from just intuitively speaking was like, I need this, absolutely want this. And so from an antibiotic standpoint, it absolutely healed my gut. And I've gone through gut issues before too, where it's taken time to recover. So this just absolutely turned it around. And so I'm hooked from, just sort of continuing on playing with the UMF grades, but the 20 UMF really saved my life. So not only, physically, but emotionally too. It's just really good to taste and to have. So that's kind of my story about the way that I leveraged Manuka honey and continue to fold it into my diet too. And especially when I'm traveling, I travel a lot too. So just kind of going through the grades.
It's a little immunity boost protector, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it's fabulous. So let's now, so that's how it healed me. Just saying. Maybe, so like I said, if you're kind of dealing with certain issues, maybe you guys can pinpoint which UMF grade is best for you, or like I said, get them all like I do.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the origin of how you guys even became producers of honey. Like where'd you guys start? Something about,
is this out the back?
Is this something where you
Your
started?
story, Dave.
This is how I sort of began with kiwi fruit as a young fella, and learned quite a lot about the whole genetics and growing and soil health and quality of fruit. And we in our structure of payment with the fruit, we get paid on quality. So that's how that quality thing has come also into the beekeeping side as well as the honey side. But we had an issue years back called PSA, which took out a variety of kiwi fruit, and we were all very, very concerned about the males, and I had beekeepers doing my pollination at that time, and I realised very quickly that I needed to support ourselves in a way, and the boys were very young, and so I bought some beehives. I had been around beehives before, but not in the extent we are now, and it grew from there, and these supersonic creatures in our lives pollinated, and I just became fascinated with the animal. I learned so much about that side, and lo and behold, they've got a byproduct. It's called honey, which is the best thing in the world. So on the stages went, and we just learnt, and we're enthusiastic about that learning, and we got better, and we learned about honeys, and this is where Supersonic Julie jumps in and makes BeeNZ what it is for her smartness and her ability.
No, we have a fabulous team. We have a fabulous team that do that.
We've also got a great lady at the helm there, so this is how it all began.
Yeah, so the journey began with purchasing the beehives to manage our own pollination in our own orchards, and so we knew that the hive units coming in to pollinate our kiwi fruit was strong and healthy, and the best they could be because David had nurtured them. And then obviously the honey, then in 2008 we built a honey extraction facility, which is where you popped in for, I think it was your first day here. You spent some time in the extraction facility, and then in 2015, was it 15, we decided to build BeeNZ. So a separate facility where that raw honey goes to in bulk form and gets filtered and popped in the jars. Built our brand, built our wonderful team, and looked up from there.
I suppose to add to that too, before we had the finishing factory BeeNZ, we weren't finishing the story. We were starting at the start and not finishing the story. And we start at the very start and we finish at the very end, which is to the consumer. And that gives us that whole holistical look at how it all works and what's fair and what's not. That's our big driver.
Yeah, we get to manage that entire process from hive to home, we say, which is great.
Yeah, and I know you guys care deeply about what it's like for the consumer and their experience into home. And that's what's really powerful is why I do what I do and why I want to have these sort of interviews where I can leverage it on different platforms to bring your producers closer to you, because now more than ever, I think it's really important to understand the motives and the core values behind companies like yourselves too, because each dollar that we spend is in support of this. And I think that not only does today, is it important for today and we rely on it today, but it's so important for our future. And I think just being a part of Julie and David's life for a very little amount of time, and how they are with their family and with their team, and with all of that, I fully respect and really support and really trust just all of your decisions along the way too. Not everybody can be their own farmer or their own beekeeper or and things like that, and so we kind of do have to put our trust in certain companies and producers and business owners that we want to make sort of those steps that align with our values, right? And so I'm not saying like, oh, you have to do this and this is, the only one to buy, but this is just insight to, if this aligns with you, then, we're bringing you closer to your producers, and it's really nice to just know that, hey, the honey that I'm consuming, like I connect more with my food that way. Yeah. And it's really such a beautiful experience, and knowing that you guys are behind the scenes make me feel really confident in my, my trusted decisions of Manuka. So I really love this whole experience, how you started out as a Kiwi farmer, and the beekeepers the other day were telling me too that there's no like beekeeping school really.
No, you can do certificates in apiculture through like a technical institute, but most of it, 90% of them is hands-on. So the best way to learn is on the job with experienced beekeepers.
And so that's
because
that
obviously
New Zealand specific, or
that's New Zealand specific. I'm not sure what it's like in other countries, because of course you imagine it's like trying to learn how to be a dairy farmer in a classroom. I mean, you've got to be around the cows, don't you? It's like beekeeping. It's really hard to learn to be a beekeeper when you're sitting in a classroom.
Right.
You've got to be in the hive every day, watching what nature's doing in there.
Right. And it's more so not to just like learn a specific strategy and then apply it, because that's what also doesn't make good beekeeping, right? It's just like to say, well, it's in the book and then here we go. It's almost like you're learning how to respond to whatever you're given each day. So let's talk about the whole bee process. This was so fun to learn. So I went into honey not actually knowing much about the process, knowing a lot about, the nutrition, what it does for our bodies. But like, I think it still makes me even more of an aware consumer, and just, making informed decisions for myself, just even understanding the entire process. And I think that is really what health is, holistically speaking, is just, seeing it for yourself, or even, maybe if you're thinking like, well, I'm sitting here watching this, and go to your local beekeepers and like go, shadow them for a day or something, right? And just see the process. So I think it's super fun, but hopefully some of this footage will help you kind of get a little peek into the process. But okay, so I started the day, and even though it was a little bit, I started maybe in extraction, but to now put it into like a pretty picture of the whole process of beekeeping. So you start with gathering the hive. You get the hive, right? And then you place it in specific areas on site. So go ahead, David. Tell us the story of bees.
So as in honey production, or just pollination, or what would you like to know?
Honey production,
Honey
and then maybe
production.
we'll offshoot from there.
So the role of a beekeeper is to rise the actual numbers of bees in a hive to a certain level. So they work away diligently, and every 2.5 weeks to 3 weeks, if the queen's laying really well, we increase in numbers. They have to get to a minimum of 35,000 to 40,000 bees to be able to actually get a good honey crop. When I say a good honey crop, a good volume, and for that hive to be able to achieve what it needs to survive on and achieve what we can have for surplus. And then we specifically place them. It all depends on what's happening during the season, whether we think the Riwariwa is going to flower, or the Pahutakawa, or wherever. So we follow that, and we'll place those hives in those sorts of regions where there's quite high density plantings, or maybe even sometimes the small density plantings, it's actually the only thing that's flowering. So that's why we're confident enough to be able to call it a monofloral. And that's how we get going.
Yeah.
And the same with the Manuka. Then the Manuka season starts, and for us that's somewhere around about sort of for second to last week of December, and it'll run through to about second week in January, last week in January, depending on the climate and when it flowered.
I'll have to come back when the Manuka is flowering.
Definitely. Or we'll send you footage.
Yeah.
But definitely come back because it's stunning. And we
Exactly.
call it snowing because, because it's all the white flowers all through the shrubs. It's lovely.
I love that. And so then, so then we're at the hive, and which you can, see some of the footage there too of me at the hive, and, just seeing it live footage, and we were able to spot the queen bee, which is amazing. We were able to spot a bee birth, which
It's the highlight of your trip, wasn't it?
I know. Mind. Well, that and Shrek too.
And Shrek,
We'll talk about Shrek. Essentially, it was this sheep who hid for 6 years from his shearers, and he just had this whole big coat. Anyways, we had a good giggle over that the other day. But just to see a bee birth, I never knew that I wanted to see that until it happened, and I was like, how incredible. And the beekeepers, their sons as well, were telling me that, and I think is it all sons, or maybe you have extended, like,
we have
friends
3
and
sons,
families?
2 of them are the beekeepers, and then we have another younger beekeeper. Yeah.
But we have other sons, which is our workers.
Yeah, I know. Technically, you have
So
a
sons
daughter
from
now,
other
too.
mothers. Yeah, exactly.
I don't even know, honestly, the difference between, like, who's their sons and who's not, because they treat absolutely everybody like family, and that is what's so special, and I absolutely love it. And so, anyway, so moving along, so I saw the bee birth, and it was fantastic, and it was incredible to just watch just this colony, and then the production of it, meaning, like, just how many hives are in one site, and then separately, and then how they go through some of the smoke that makes that, temperament, thank you, that works with their temperament. So when you go in to consistently every day check on the hive to see the health of the hive, it's nice to have that. And then going through the whole, what are they called?
Frames.
The trays, the frames, and looking through the combs, and then even how they take the not the pollen, but the propolis to seal, like just intuitively seal the tray or the box.
The box.
Help me with the terms. The box.
Yeah.
Away from predators such as your wasp and things like that, and how they bring, like, you could see them with the little pollen and, like, the and then the eggs and the comb and then the queen bee, and it's just wild experience. So again, as I mentioned too, health comes a lot with the process of how the food is being made, and so starting at beekeeping too, I think the health of the hive, and then essentially at the end, the quality of the honey from, from taste and health and nutrition perspective too, is how you begin. And so, not only were they showing me of how, like, some of their techniques and, and just how it all works, even the waggle dancing, we did a little fun waggle dance out there. But also what's important to me as well is how you deal with pests, right? And that is something that can absolutely happen in any sort of agriculture or livestock, and so it's that response that separates you guys, So what are you working with apart from like chemicals to just kind of deal with stress or pests?
With regards to Varroa, we use glycerin and oxalic, and they're soaked a cardboard strip for a period of time at the right percentage of glycerin and oxalic, and we use that in the hive to actually pretty much burn the feet off the mite, and that's how that works as a composite.
Without harming the bee.
Without harming the bee, totally natural. The Varroa cannot build resistance to that in any way, shape or form. And a lot of the miticides that can be used in beehives at the moment, Varroa is building a resistance to them. Over the years that it's been smart enough to build a resistance to it. So it won't be very long and all of those chemicals won't work anyway.
Right.
Yeah, probably 90% of beekeepers will use the miticides in their hives. It's just not our flow.
Yeah.
So David and the boys developed what they use with the cardboard strips, and you've had success with that, haven't you?
Yeah, and then there's other. We're chasing a bit of a strange fungal bacteria, and it's not a dirty bacteria. It's actually just a airborne fungal bacteria, and it's called chalkbrood.
Which is all around the world in beekeeping.
And it used to be replace the queen. That'll fix it. Well, it actually doesn't.
Oh,
it
wow.
does, but it doesn't too. So we've been soaking some, again, cardboard strips in Manuka oil and a few other bits and bobs.
There it is again.
Few organic trade secrets.
Yes.
And we're laying those into the hives quite consistently during that period that can come in, and we're seeing some pretty cool results.
Yeah.
So the more and more we head down this, the more and more excited I am about nature's given us something to fix something. We've got to find that rather than let's just put some chemicals. Because in New Zealand we cannot use chemicals at all in our hives.
Or antibiotics. So another challenge in beekeeping New Zealand is AFB, which is American foul brood disease, which is a disease that came through border from America. And so in America and other countries, you use antibiotics in your hives to protect the bees against that. It's actually illegal in New Zealand to do that in beekeeping, so we can't use the antibiotics, which is great because we're more natural. So so it's great. We don't have that antibiotic trace in our food chain.
That's great. Well, let's talk about, speaking of, chemicals and pesticides and things that, or I want to say harmful chemicals, right? Because everything is chemicals. But to talk about the big issue, and I know a lot of people really want to know about glyphosate because, especially when it comes to New Zealand, it's just the narrative. Like, you never know what is truth around the narrative and what's not. And so that glyphosate is frequently used in New Zealand. So how do you, I guess, dodge that, but also why does it not show up in your test results for BeeNZ?
Exactly. So we test every one of our production batches, our honey batches for a trace of glyphosate, and we don't have any. So we have that evidence supporting each production batch of honey. David, you can probably talk to about why we don't. You're very picky about where you place your hives. You're very aware of what's in that 2 kilometre circumference surrounding.
Yeah. And there's a lot of people we work with, like the farmers side, that are also very aware of it too.
And don't use it.
They're producers as well. So I would have a guess to say that we are very, very much heading in the right direction I pray and hope it's banned within a very short time.
Most
And
food producers.
and it very well could be.
Yeah.
The way we're heading, I believe it will be.
Yeah.
But we do mitigate our way through it, and we do it very well with the help of other farmers.
Right.
Yeah, food producers in New Zealand don't like it and don't use it. It's just more used in probably city areas for weed control, and more urban areas. Rural areas don't like using it at all.
Yeah, I've noticed just, as you guys took me around too, just, touring, it's very pristine around this place. And I also got to meet some of the landowners that you guys place your hives on as well too. And again, like, it's so much more than just being sort of your own plopping hives on the land, right? It's just the relationships that you build with your landowners, and then their core values too, and how they want to protect their own land. So it's just like the meticulous, the detail is just like, it's super impressive, and it's opened my eyes a lot too, to just like really understand that there is more to it, just, you know, just for everything. So I really love that. And so glyphosate, right, is a huge issue. So what you guys do is that you test each drum that comes from extraction, which is amazing. This is every day, or this is every day when it's harvested, right? Yeah. Before it goes anywhere else. And so can you tell us maybe a little bit about that testing process? And so I guess if there were potentially traces of it, and how you kind of navigate that.
If there were traces of it, we would eliminate that product. Well, you would say drum, but there could be several drums from that one honey site. So each drum would be tested, and if one of them showed a trace, then that whole batch would be put to the side and labelled, and we wouldn't use it in our production. Right. There are honey companies in New Zealand that would use that, but we've just made it one of our mottos that we don't. So I don't think a lot of glyphosate would show up in a lot of honey. I mean, that would probably be a question for the laboratory, because they're testing. They're a third-party independent lab that do a lot of honey testing in New Zealand, and they might have some stats or figures around that, but wouldn't be very high at all.
I think it's parts per billion too.
Yeah, such as, yeah.
So by being parts per billion, like, that's really rigorous testing.
Testing,
in comparison to some of the other foods that we consume.
Right. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and that was, you know, kind of when we first started talking, this is why it took so long to, well, I don't want to say it took so long, it just took the time that it needed. Like
it does, to educate, and you needed to know about Manuka Honey, and then about us, and you know, our values and ethos behind our company and brand.
Exactly. I wanted to feel aligned and feel that, you know, those that are my audience, that they feel aligned with me, and so I think that, like, it sort of, you know, is something that you guys would be able to digest really well. But, you know, glyphosate was definitely one of my first asks about that. And then also I had, you know, other questions as well, too, about
the PET.
You know, your packaging and things like that. And I was questioned that, but I'm always open to adapt and to learn more, too, about what, you know, there are other methods. And so Julie and David are very environmentally conscious, and which I absolutely love. And so just maybe some of the pain points about New Zealand packaging, and then what you guys have used as an alternative.
Yeah, probably. So, I mean, we often get asked, why don't we use glass? Okay, so we're a little island in the bottom of the Pacific Ocean. We don't have glass manufacturers here. So for us to use a glass jar, we'd have to import that glass from either Europe or China. And it comes over, it then has to go through sterilisation process, because it's not food grade compliant for New Zealand. So you sterilise those jars. They have metal lids with plastic linings, and they're not tamper proof. So they're all hand lidded. It's the risk of any shards of glass for the consumer. It's the risk of, you know, it's a long way to ship from New Zealand to the States. Sometimes it can be transshipped, so it's loaded and offloaded several times off a ship or a truck or out of a container. So that risk of damage and that broken glass going through a product is just too big a risk for us. The carbon footprint of producing it in a glass jar is 3 times the amount than it is for us to put it in one of our jars. So we use rPET, so the PET jar is being made by 100% already recycled plastic, or recycled PET, and it's manufactured in New Zealand. So for us, the environmental friendly choice is to do what we're doing now.
And also too, just the sheer weight of glass, you know, for us to export that weight, especially honey being a really heavy commodity, it would just ruin that footprint.
It actually adds another 32% onto the weight of a finished pallet.
Wow.
So then that goes into the shipping and the
Manuka
you know, the
wasn't
carbon.
already expensive.
Exactly.
For sure.
It would make the price point for the consumer a lot more expensive, because we've had to ship the packaging in from offshore, and then we're shipping the product.
Can I also add something else? The beauty is that we don't want ultraviolet on our honey inside, and that's hence why that pot's that colour.
Right.
We also have the tamper-proof, so for adulteration and stuff, we have the lift and peel inside.
That's
and
why
then,
it's so hard to get open. You're
Yeah,
let me just like put a straw in here.
because you know there are issues of Manuka honey being adulterated offshore, and then also the
many.
tamper evident ring. So there's those two points there. With a glass jar, there's nothing.
Right.
You know, it's,
Yeah.
you can't seal a glass jar unless you put a ring of plastic or shrink wrap on it. So it's like, well, you're putting plastic on the glass jar anyway. So you know.
And so that's of course what got me, curious into asking questions too, because those that do follow me, I'm absolutely not a fan of plastic, as what that means for our health, nutritionally speaking, when we're ingesting, and the BPAs and PFAs that can all cause hormonal disruption. So I asked, Julie and team.
So I asked our packing manufacturer,
Yeah.
and they provided all that scientific research and the testing they'd done. So it was a great journey for me to go on as well.
No, I love it because we're all learning, and then also just again they're open to it, and even this may not be the final packaging. Maybe we are able to find a solution that moves into something that is a balance, holistically speaking, of environmental health, human health, all of the things, right? So,
And that balance would be if we sent it bulk and got it packed in glass offshore, but then once again, that huge risk
In
of
drums, and then the
adulteration
UMF.
and the no UMF grading.
Yeah.
So it's
So you guys tested actually for BPAs, PFAs.
The packaging company have done, and they've done the stability test with honey because the packaging company PharmaPack are probably the best in New Zealand, and they're probably used by 90% of New Zealand honey companies would use packaging from PharmaPack.
Oh, great.
Yeah, so they've gone through and done all that stability testing.
And there was nothing detected.
Nothing detected.
So, which is why I consider it okay, absolutely okay. This is an exception, right, to the rule. And they showed me the test results and everything, and they continue to test it too. It's not like a one and done thing. So
and they're always improving. Right. They're always improving, getting more environmentally friendly, and it's great.
Yeah, to speak to glass, the importing of glass and the soot and the dirt that came in on the glass was actually really scary.
That's why I say it had to all go through a sterilisation before you could use it.
chemical process.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Harsh chemical
Yeah,
process.
another use of natural water and things just to get a jar ready that has been chipped in its import to be thrown out. It's just that whole thing just didn't gel with us.
Right.
And that's hence why we're here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you just got to do with what's aligned, and that's why we're here. Is this aligns with, this whole process and learning all this aligns, and so. All right, so then let's continue on. Hive, then we go to extraction, which is what I saw, which was beautiful. And
That's a beautiful process. Yeah, so off with the honey boxes, allowing enough food for the bee for the winter period. So we actually escape those bees out of that top box naturally with a special system that they leave over about a 24-hour period and they can't get back in. It's a special one-way board. Then we take that, we batch that. So say it came from Ridley's place, and of course there was 100 boxes. We have to write that in a harvest document, Ridley's place, where it is. It's registered on the Happy website. Julie gets the harvest document. 100 boxes came from Ridley's. Before we even start, we've got it batched. We extract that honey and we put it in one vat. As we're extracting, we we look for colours, what we think that might be.
This guy's really struggling over
He's struggling, isn't he? I'm not sure what he's doing. The motor's not
He's
going.
actually trying to fix my forklift.
Oh, is it? Oh, there you go.
So there you go.
So you sort of do sensory testing at extraction, don't you? So
And then we put it in a vat and we stir that together. Those 100 boxes all become really like one big box, which is beautiful. It's all made as one family, and then we actually take that and put it into big drums, and as we're doing that we take a test from each of the drums that it's going into. Say for example it's 100 boxes, we're going to get 3 drums, so we'll take 3 individual tests. That goes back to BeeNZ. Julie, we call for all of the tests at that stage at once, because it'll be Glyphosate,
Toot, and we test for everything
and bobs.
bits and bobs.
There's a list this
Obviously,
long.
what sort of floral honey type it is. If it's Manuka, then it goes on for 4 more different tests and a DNA test to get the potency and the UMF grading. And if it is a Manuka UMF, then it's we get a release certificate from the UMF Association for that batch.
And then those beautiful boxes that we've finished with, it's still got their comb, but there's just no honey in the comb. So the beekeeper comes and picks it up, or we store that. And to store that, we actually put them in like a sealed room, and that keeps the wax moth away and a few other bits and bobs. And then we go from there to once the honey is actually shown that it's what we want, or it's really good, then I talk with Julie about bringing it to BeeNZ from the extraction shed, or we hold it here until such time as she needs it. Yeah, that's how it happens.
I love that. Yep. And again, I was taken through the whole journey of that. So, okay. So then that's the extraction process. And then I was with Troy into how you guys filter. Now, it's really raw at this point. And so the filtration is just to get like the bees' wings and the legs and the things that, that aren't really that nice.
Palatable.
Palatable, yeah. So it's really not like a filtration as you guys would think, like heating
We're not,
or anything.
we're not take out pollens or any of the
Right.
goodness. It's just really the filtration is at 100 microns, so it allows all the goodness to go through it, all the pollens and natural impurities, I would say, but any impurities that you can see with the naked eye, like bits of insect and wax.
Yeah.
Bits of wax, it comes from a really agricultural site. So that's what the filtration does. So that's all that happens before we put it in the jar.
Right. Yeah. And so he took me through that, and so that was really nice. It was pristine as every process of theirs is. So it was really gorgeous. It was really cool to see that process. It was just really awesome to see that much honey come out of a barrel and like not feel like sick over it almost, that I just wanted to bathe in it, which would be
So
really
nice.
good for
and
my
it
skin.
smells so good, doesn't it? I love
Yeah,
that.
it was just like, let me just swim. Sometimes if you see like too much food, you're just like, this could make me sick, like because it's like just barrels of food, but not honey. That is totally different. That makes me want to dive in and snorkel. So that was really a wonderful process. And then he kind of took me through it. And then at the end of it, what you guys sort of do with maybe the starter of the Manuka, and how this is sort of there. I asked her the other day, I was like, is this a trade secret? Because of course you don't want to, share it, but I will share, or I want her to share what she wants to share, but the just the starter of how it comes, it's in this beautiful whipped texture that just like makes it exceptional as compared to other Manuka honeys that I've had in the past. Again, I don't even know if they were real back then, whatever, but it's just the quality and just texturally is amazing.
You could probably speak to the seeding. So I'll start. The New Zealand honeys naturally have quite a large sugar crystal, which means once they're filtered, after probably 3 or 4 months, the sugar crystals will start to stick together and grow larger. So it's perfectly still fine for human consumption. It's just not. It's grainy.
Right.
So many of your viewers probably get grainy honey. They used to. For export, we call cream or put a starter in the honey. Do you want to explain the chemical process with that one?
Well, it's not chemical process. It's
Well,
a
natural
process.
Sugar.
By introducing a slightly smaller natural grain, it actually takes the habit of the Manuka over, because Manuka loves to go to a bit bigger, and that's what makes it grainy. So what we do is we just basically make it smooth, and it's all done in the honey process.
Right.
And that gives the eating experience, it gives the spreadable experience, it makes the product just nicer to use and nicer, like if you want to use it on your skin, it's not going to scratch your skin and all those sorts of things. So that's why we do it this way. Yeah.
Sort of retains that consistency.
Yeah.
For its shelf life, and so I've explained to you how we do that. So we just really just adding a little bit of creamed honey from the previous batch we made,
Yeah.
and it's slowly mixed through.
Yeah.
So it's not whipped, it's just slowly stirred and homogenised, and then nature takes its course and slowly creams it.
Yeah.
But we pride ourselves on our quality of that. Our guys take a lot of time and care with that.
Yeah, we also do a little bit of extra time when we feel that it's not ready to pack. We'll hold it and take it a little bit further.
Yeah.
It's a real timing process with
Yeah.
it.
And I honestly almost feel like that in in the energy of every single bottle you open. I feel like the quality is in every bottle,
Yay.
not in every batch. I'm not even joking. So, maybe it's the Manuka, maybe it's the bees, and maybe it's the, starter, the creamed that you've taken from the batch beforehand. But really, maybe it's the energy that goes into this.
I think
because
it's every
so
step.
beautiful.
Yeah, every step of the way. Like we really, we care. We care for the bees. We
Yeah.
care for the way we process. We care for, and every one of our team cares for that consumer and making sure that they're
Yeah.
getting the best product that we can do.
Right, and they're all happy over there. I mean, oh my gosh, and yeah, they keep it pristine and super clean too. And as you can probably see in some of this footage too, just how clean it is. And so the cleaning, even down to the cleaning process too, you guys, it's really just honey
water.
And then just water that goes through it when it is inactive and that you guys aren't using the facility. So.
That's the beautiful part about it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just hot water.
Yeah.
Hot water is the
Another
only cleaning
advanced
we use.
detail and
Yeah.
just another detail that is really important in how our food is being made. So then we moved on to the bottling process. Now we get to start to see it all sort of come together and get ready for departure. It's almost sad because it's but yeah, and then putting them into these beautiful bottles, so we can kind of see that process there of how you guys work your magic and bottling it up in this beautiful. So you guys are really proud of your labels.
Yes.
Super, super proud. Super, super proud. What makes BeeNZ quite unique is that we're one of the very, very few New Zealand honey labels that manage that whole process from hive to home. So we are the beekeeper, we are the extractor, we are the packer.
They are.
We own the brand, we are family.
Yeah.
Many New Zealand honey brands are marketing companies that own the brand name and then go to honey supplier and packers to provide for them, like white label, you know, which is,
Manuka can be a very sneaky thing.
It can be.
But yeah, but I'm really involved and really want to support those that are a part of the entire process and just involved in it all. And that just makes you more, aware producers and then also as consumers either too. So you're in the store and maybe you're looking for Manuka and you're thinking, okay, maybe you're in New York or maybe you're in, where else do you guys sell to?
Portland, Oregon, all through California.
Right. What about outside of the States?
Outside of states, we are Saudi Arabia, Dubai, Italy, Switzerland,
So many
France.
places.
Yeah.
So they're in the store and they're looking at, Manuka honey in general. So it might not just be BeeNZ. Well, how can you empower the consumer to make informed choices when it comes to how to purchase authentic and genuine Manuka honey, right? So there's a couple of different labels that you'll see on there: MGO, K factor, and then from BeeNZ you can see the UMF. So how first-time consumer, I'm like, what are these numbers?
Okay, so I think first thing, make sure it says Manuka honey and not, if it says multi-floral Manuka or Manuka blend, then you know it is a very low quality Manuka. It hasn't reached the 5+.
Which is probably at a higher price point because they just think that slapping Manuka on there and then they put it at a higher price point.
Exactly.
Be
So
careful.
what it means is there is some trace of Manuka honey in that honey, but it's not monofloral Manuka. It's not just Manuka. So first thing, that would be the most important thing I could say. Second thing would be make sure it's packed in New Zealand. Okay, and then third, look for that UMF grading. So any brand or any jar of Manuka honey that supports the UMF licensing and the grading has been tested vigorously. So you can be totally 100% sure of its potency, its authenticity, and its freshness.
Yep.
That's what I'd say.
Good, thank you. Okay, and so I noticed too that you guys have the halal label on here too, as well, or certificate as well too. So that's really that's quite nice too. I know I have some audience members too that always ask me about that. So also, I know that when you said hive to home, and I love that. It's a beautiful story. So then to home, sometimes consumers, it's like user error can happen. So what are some of the enemies? How can we care for the honey beyond, once you guys pass it off to us and it comes into our home? So what are some of the ways to preserve the nutrients of honey, keep those, bioactives and those important properties that do make this honey so special, the Manuka honey so special, apart from local honey? But what are the challenges or enemies? You said temperature.
Temperature is probably the main one, and it's not that it has to be in the fridge, but it definitely can't. You don't want it over 25 degrees sitting somewhere where it's getting warm and cool and warm and cool.
Or warm for a long, long period of time.
Yeah.
So what the best advice, I think, is treat it like you treat, or store it like you store chocolate.
Yeah.
Or something.
In a secret cabinet where nobody can touch it.
Exactly.
That's how you do it.
No, but it's similar, it doesn't have to be refrigerated, but it doesn't sit
it
in
can
the
be
car all
refrigerated.
day in the summer, or it doesn't sit on the windowsill in your
But
kitchen
it
with the
can
sun on it.
be. If you want to put it in the fridge, you can put it in the fridge.
Sure.
Fridge is a lot better than heat.
Right.
Yeah.
I
If
see.
that's the choices you want to make. Secondly, do the top up well.
Yep.
Like when you finish with it. And thirdly, don't cross-contaminate, which is like you're having peanut butter or you're having in the same knife. Because we all have this sort of thing goes on.
Right.
In
I've done
families.
that. I'm guilty. Yeah.
Or crumbs.
Yeah, crumbs, breadcrumbs, and bits and bobs. So if you do, you love
Yes.
that. You
How
love
many
it.
more of those can we? There's full.
We've got about 3 or 4 in
Okay,
so
good.
far.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's
Somebody check and tick them.
what I
tally
could
up.
say would be the best thing to do.
So when you do introduce like crumbs or something like that,
Just
what
dig 'em
happens?
out.
Oh, it's
Okay.
fine.
Well,
It's that nothing happens.
It's just probably your own presentation.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, it's absolutely
You don't want to
fine.
give somebody like a little clam of mussel with a dollop of Kuka, which we've discovered is amazing, like a shellfish with like some Kuka on the side, but with some breadcrumbs is not a good look. But
So honey doesn't go off. It doesn't get mouldy. It doesn't. It doesn't like. It has a 5-year shelf life because New Zealand government and our food regulations here, we're packing it as a food. So the maximum we can put on a food is 5 years.
Okay.
When packing in New Zealand, but it will last forever.
Beyond.
It does not
would
go
you
off.
say the 20 UMF even goes beyond that too? Because like, are there any properties that?
It's so dense in antibacterial properties
Protect
that
it.
it would go beyond that.
And-
like they found honey, it wasn't Manuka honey, but honey in general doesn't go off, was it?
Like it had an activity in it.
Yeah, and Tutankhamun's tomb in Egypt. So,
Right.
Honey does have that forever shelf life.
Right.
So that is one of the natural markers that we always test for in all our Manuka honey batches. So everybody gets that tested. But for UMF, we do 3 extra tests to prove the potency and the authenticity.
Okay.
So we've got the MGO and the UMF on our label just so that customer doesn't get too confused.
Right.
Because the MGO numbers are a lot higher. So UMF 5 plus is equatable to an MGO 100 plus. If you weren't aware of the I can't even say it. The comparison
Similarities.
tables, then you would
Yeah.
possibly think, 100's got to be a way higher spec than a 5.
Right.
But they're actually equatable. So
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, and it may
you can
not
find
be
more on our
genuine.
website. We go into quite
Yeah.
in-depth detail about that comparison table.
And have we
Exactly.
spoken about the fact that honey gets better?
No, we haven't.
It's like
It
it gets better
ages
with
like
age?
wine. Yeah.
Do you want me
Wow.
Or like woman.
Do you want me to quickly talk
Yeah.
to
Do
that?
it.
That'd be great.
Yeah. Honey with the right Manuka properties in it actually gets better and better and better as time goes along. So a fresh harvest quotes that today that it came off the harvest at 10. So you pack it, just what we've done, beautiful. But if you were to retest that
In 3 or 4 years, yeah.
year and a half's time, it will be 12, 13, 14.
So it
Wow.
does mature.
So we have a product that doesn't go downhill like most products do when you open them. We have a product that goes uphill, and
Yeah.
that's really cool.
Yeah.
Going into that much further will get complicated.
Yeah.
It's something we can talk about later
Sure,
on.
yeah.
But definitely the product gets better.
Right. And it gets better if you do the right things at home too. Don't be, one of those that user error and give it oxygen or light or heat or any one of those cases. So tell us where can we find you? Where can we find BeeNZ as far as from America's standpoint, or even just all around the world?
Well, if you go to our website, www.beenz.co.nz, and then if you type that, it's a New Zealand address, but you'll be directed directly to your US site if you are searching from the US, and it's got a big list of our stockists and distributors. So we're only new in the US. We've only been present there for maybe 12 months now. So you can find us online. We have an online store, and obviously you can use BAE as a discount, get your discount code.
That's right. I'll put the link at the bottom too.
Yeah,
so you guys can
perfect.
easily
But also in lots of really good whole food stores, organic food stores. We are all throughout Portland and Oregon areas, moving down into California. You can find us on Amazon. We have a store on Amazon, so should be in a store reasonably near. If not, we ship all around the state. So if you can't find a stockist near you, then pop in onto our website. Use Lindsay's discount code. And,
Or
there.
if you come to New Zealand, they
Of
have
course.
this super cute shop. I almost was like, okay, this is what I'm here for, is the cute shop. I took some footage of that, as you can see. It's just adorable. And then you get to meet the team, and they are also friendly and welcoming, and just love to be there in the environment. So if you do find yourself in New Zealand, you can also just come say hi to your local beekeepers, as well as Manuka Honey beekeepers and producers.
So welcome any of you. If you are, like Lindsay says, do pop in. We have a tour of the factory, meet the team. And we'd love to chat more. That'd be fabulous to see some of you over here.
You guys, thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Oh
Thank
my
you.
gosh. I
Thank
can't even tell you how much this means to me, and just, and being here. And so I really hope that you guys have learned something. I know I have, not only
And we have
professionally,
too.
business,
We have
but
too.
personally too. What a joy it was.
Oh,
I know.
you like cry? You're gonna have tears today.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Lindsay. It's been
guys.
great.
No, it has.
It's been fabulous.